In this video, you'll learn how your daily lifestyle habits can either make or break your blood sugar stability, and how that can make you feel sluggish, lethargic, irritable, and inflamed. This is Dr. Peter Kahn. I'm a board-certified chiropractic neurologist and board-certified in integrative medicine. Let me show you how to master your health. Now, this is part 2 of a 3-part series on blood sugar and inflammation. Now, blood sugar problems can be real sneaky and can be an underlying cause of inflammation. If you struggle with chronic inflammation and you're treating it with medications or supplements, but you still feel inflamed, you may need to go more upstream to fix blood sugar problems first. Now, before you can fix your blood sugar problem, you first must understand how it starts in your everyday habits that may be promoting blood sugar imbalance and therefore inflammation.
So it starts with lifestyle. Okay, so we have reactive hypoglycemia and insulin resistance. So the lifestyle choices that you make can determine your metabolism. And the lifestyle choices that drives reactive hypoglycemia includes skipping meals. You skip breakfast, you're busy at work, you skip lunch, you just don't eat because you're too busy to eat. When you skip meal, your blood sugars start to crash. That's when you get symptoms. If you eat a lot of sugary snacks, instead of eating real entree meals with protein and fat, you just eat like chips and sugary snack all day to sustain you. That can also cause the blood sugar spike from the sugary snack, followed by the crash. Or you suppress your appetite with stimulants, right? You don't have time to eat and you don't want to eat, or you don't feel good when you eat because you have leaky gut, you have digestion issues, you have other reasons that when you eat, you don't feel good. So you avoid eating, and that causes hypoglycemia. And then you try to suppress your appetite so you don't have to eat with stimulants like coffee or nicotine, or even people take these appetite suppressant drugs. So that can cause hypoglycemia. If you eat sweets instead of a meal, as I talked about earlier, instead of eating protein and fat, you're just eating crackers and bagels and bread and cookies. That's going to cause problems. Not enough, and as a result of eating too much sweets and carbs, you don't have enough protein or fat in your diet. Now, when we say protein and fat, we're talking about real protein, like healthy protein, healthy fat, not a hamburger from a fast food joint. Okay, but getting good protein and fat helps you balance out that sugar, the effect of the sugar to raise the blood glucose level. And then you overtrain. Some people, they overtrain and they undereat. They're trying to lose weight, or they have body image problems, and they overtrain by doing too much exercise, and they don't replenish themselves with enough proper food. That can also cause this reactive hypoglycemia pattern. Now, on the insulin resistance side, the lifestyle choices that drive insulin resistance is if you overeat, right? Rather than skipping meal, you overeat, over-calorization. And when you do eat, you eat too much carbs, too much sugary stuff, and you snack all day. You just, constantly having some food in your mouth. And then you emotional eat, or you eat for pleasure, right? You don't feel good, you're stressed out, so you eat to alleviate stress. Or you eat because, hey, I just love to eat, instead of live to eat. Instead of eat to live, you live to eat. Or you have low fiber intake. Fiber is really important to help slow down that sugar delivery into your bloodstream. So low fiber intake can lead to insulin resistance. And if you have sedentary activity, so here somebody overtrained, you may be undertrained, not enough physical activity, because physical activity is the biggest way and the fastest way to get rid of glucose in your bloodstream. And if you don't exercise, the glucose just stays in your blood. And due to insulin resistance, whatever you can't use, it gets stored as fat, so contribute to obesity. Now, so these are the lifestyle that contribute to hypoglycemia and insulin resistance. So what are the symptoms? What might you feel to let you know that you have hypoglycemia or insulin resistance? So these are the symptoms. For hypoglycemic, you may feel shaky, lightheaded if you skip a meal, right? You like to skip meal, or you're too busy, you're too stressed, so you don't eat. But when you skip meals, you feel shaky, lightheaded, right? You may feel agitated. You feel anxiety, anxiousness, especially if you don't eat. And people call that, being hangry, right? You're hungry and angry at the same time. You need caffeine just to function, right? A lot of hypoglycemics, they live off of stimulants. And you may have poor memory and blurry vision. Why poor memory and blurry vision? Well, remember, your brain's preferred source of fuel is glucose and oxygen, but glucose is from the food that you eat. So if you're hypoglycemic, you can't drive brain function, your memory's gonna be poor, your cognition's gonna be poor, mental processing speed's gonna be poor. Blurry vision because your vision is, again, driven by brain function. So then you can't see well, you feel blurry, you think it's your glasses, but it's actually because you have blood sugar problem. Now the blurry vision from blood sugar problem will be, right, transient. If it's constant blurry vision, that might mean that you need glasses. So if it's comes and goes, especially when you don't have enough fuel, when you're hungry, then you get blurry vision, most likely hypoglycemia. And then the most important key here is that eating makes you feel better. You skip meal and you feel worse, and you eat, thank goodness, I ate and I feel better. That's a cardinal sign of hypoglycemia. Okay? And symptoms of insulin resistance will be that it's the opposite. Instead of eating relieves your fatigue, you feel fatigue after you eat. The reason is because you have insulin resistance, so once you eat, especially if you eat sugary, carby foods, your insulin spike, which makes you more insulin resistant, then the glucose from the food that you eat cannot go into your cell, so then you just feel more tired because all this energy is stuck in your blood as glucose and it cannot go into your cell to be utilized. So fatigue after a meal, you crave dessert after you eat. You know, you're already so full. You know, you go to these American restaurants, you're already so full. They bring you, would you like dessert? Yes. You don't say no because you crave it. The reason you crave it because you're insulin resistant, none of that glucose is able to get into your cell. So your brain's sending you a signal, say, hey, I don't have enough glucose inside the cell, but you have plenty of glucose in the blood, but your cell doesn't lie. You don't have enough energy inside the cell, so it's sending you these cravings so you can like saturate your body with more glucose, which actually exacerbate the problem. And then you get sweet craving all day, not just after a meal. You just have this constant sweet craving. You just say, oh, I have a weak willpower. Have nothing to do with willpower. It has to do with your physiology. And then cravings not resolved with eating. You know, you may eat the ice cream and eat the dessert and eat the cookie, and then you still have sweet craving for more because you're leptin resistant. The leptin is a hormone that triggers satiety. And when you're insulin resistant, you also become leptin resistant. So you're just constantly eating and you overeat. And that overeating causes you to gain weight and moreover, not just gain, but can't lose it. So once you decide to, I'm not gonna eat for a day or two, fast, but it's like nothing comes off because your metabolism is essentially broken with insulin resistance. So what are the conditions then that results into, right? These are the lifestyle choices that we make that drive these symptoms that you feel. So you end up at a doctor's office complaining about these things and want a drug for it, right? Or a doctor want to give you a drug for it instead of teaching you how to actually fix it. So what are some of the conditions that people complain about when you're a hypoglycemic? Fatigue, depression, anxiety. You may have trouble with sleeping, especially can't stay asleep. You wake up frequently at night. Maybe you fall asleep okay, but you just can't stay asleep. Once you wake up, you're wired and you can't fall back to sleep. That's usually related to a hypoglycemic pattern. You may have headaches because you don't get fuel to your brain, then you get headaches. You may have hormone imbalances. Blood sugar problem, both high and low blood sugar, both really mess with your hormone. The reason because there are multiple hormones that participate in balancing your blood sugar. And when your blood sugar gets really out of balance because of the lifestyle choices we make, these hormones that all participate in regulating blood sugar all gets out of whack. These are your adrenal hormones, your sex hormones, your thyroid hormones, your pancreatic hormones like insulin. They all get out of whack. And when they start getting out of whack, that can cause things like PCOS or low testosterone in male, low estrogen in female, or endometriosis and menstrual cramps. But then it can also lead to infertility. And that's something that can be very devastating for some people if you're looking to have a family. Now for insulin resistant, the conditions that you show up at the doctor's office for due to insulin resistance is similar list. Fatigue, but then obesity, right? Can't lose weight. So people look for the diet pill. But if you don't fix the underlying reason, physiology, and the underlying lifestyle choices, the diet pill is not going to do much. Depression and mood disorder. right? Anxiety, I mean, we have medications for those. But what is that doing to fix the underlying root cause? Nothing. And this is the reason why those antidepressants don't really work all the time. It works like a third of the time, 50% of the time. Okay, great, for the third of the person it works for, but what about for the rest of the people it doesn't work? You're already taking antidepressant, you're taking 2 and 3, it still doesn't work. What do you do then? Gotta address the root cause. And even for those people where the antidepressant does work, does that mean you don't fix the insulin resistance and the fuel to the brain? That could be driving other dysfunctions, right? So then what do? You take a pill for every single problem here? That's not the solution, right? The solution is actually fixing it. You can have achy joints. Why do you have achy, painful joints? Because of inflammation, right? Blood sugar problem drives inflammation, can even lead to autoimmune disease or autoimmune flare-ups, or it can start an autoimmune disease. In fact, what's the final stage of blood sugar problem? When you have high hemoglobin A1C, you end up with type 2 diabetes. But once you get to a certain point, you can become a type 1 diabetes, where you become insulin dependent. Type 2 is where your blood sugar is high, causes a lot of damage, but you damage enough tissue, your pancreas eventually becomes burned out. It cannot make that much insulin forever. When the pancreas burns out, can't make insulin, you become type 1. Some people become type 1.5 diabetes. That means your body is so inflamed, your pancreas is so stressed from making insulin all the time that you have autoimmune to pancreas. Okay, that's called latent autoimmune diabetes of adults. Okay, so that's different manifestations of blood sugar that can really drive autoimmunity. But achy, painful joint, because of inflammation, you can have thinning hair. Part of that's because of the hormone imbalance, especially in females. The estrogen, when you have insulin resistance, gets converted to testosterone. Due to 1720 lyase activity, this enzyme converts estrogen to testosterone, normally in female, but that process gets really upregulated when you have insulin resistance. When females have too much testosterone, it causes thinning hair, it causes facial hair growth, not a sexy look for ladies. It also causes hormone imbalance, weight gain, as well as infertility. So you can see that blood sugar causes more than just metabolism problem and sweet cravings. It can cause brain problems, it can cause inflammation, autoimmunity, and hormone imbalance. So it's something that's such a common problem, but it's also a relatively easy problem to fix.
I hope you see the importance of regulating your blood sugar in dampening inflammation and controlling autoimmunity. Please let me know in the comments section what is the one big takeaway you learned from this video or new revelation. I love to hear from you and I respond personally. Now, if this video helped you, please like the video and share with others so they can get help too. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not already done so and get notified when I release new videos. God bless you and see you in the next video.